Hello everyone, welcome back to the Civicus Dice Game Let's Play Board Game Edition preview. Now, first of all, I want to say overall, I love this game. The gameplay is really nice, it's refreshing, it's not like anything I've really played before. I'd say the best way to describe it would be somewhere if you took, like, any of the Civilization games, really, and you merged it with Settlers of Catan, and you put the two together. It's a really nice combination. I really like that. The turn order system is really cool. I like that a lot. It makes it interesting having two turns in a row. It's not like you have to really. It's a different mindset. You have to realize, okay, I have two turns. What do I want to do? And you have more planning to do. Also, it gives you, like, it's a dice-based game. I mean, let's face it. It's fairly random. You have to hope you roll the right thing. Now, having the two turns back-to-back like that, you have two chances to get your plans done. So it kind of mitigates the luck aspect a little bit, which is something I really like. I like the scoring system. It's something that I've only seen maybe the last 6 months or so, where you have things multiplied together to get scores. I really like that. It makes it interesting. It puts a different spin than, oh, this is worth this many points, this is worth this many points. It's a lot more math, which I like. I love doing math. I'll admit it makes it a little more difficult for people who don't enjoy doing math. But I think this game is simple enough overall that it really, there's not a lot, you don't have to do the math. And you're doing math, you have to do your scoring every round anyway. So you know what's going on as the game progresses. Let's see, what else? Now, there's one thing that really bothers me, and I'm gonna pull up a copy of the board to show you that. Now, the only real problem I have with the game is the board itself. As you can see with the sacred sites, like here and here, they have really nice, detailed, fine artwork. And you can see it in the sacred sites because there's nothing on them. You can see straight through. But all the other ones are covered up by, like, flat meeple circles and meeple temples and dice. And I mean, you can't see this. They have this great artwork and then you can't see any of it. And that's really disappointing to me. Also, the fact that, while the markets, the temples, and the farms have meeples, but the sacred sites don't, I know that will drive people with OCD crazy, because three of them have it, one of them don't. But I have talked to the designer of the game. He said this was an earlier draft. Things are probably going to change somewhat. Well, they are definitely going to change somewhat. The areas that have dice on them are no longer going to have dice, because, as you can see, like, there's desert with markets and there's mountains with temples, etc. That's not going to be the case in the actual version. The real version, at least the temples, markets, and farms are going to have some kind of separate backdrop that is completely different from the forests, the mountains, and the deserts. So they're not going to need the dice on them. You're actually going to be able to see those. I also talked to him. They're considering putting something on the sacred sites. Now, I did find out there is a reason why they have these meeple pictures on there. Civicus, the dice game, is actually a precursor to another game that will be coming out in spring of 2016. That is the Civicus, the core game. In that game, they actually have temple meeple pieces, and they have markets that are gold coins, and farms that are indicated by drumsticks. So they're trying to tie the two together. And the reason why the sacred sites don't actually have any symbol or any meeple is because in the real game, they are actually a domain like the forests and the mountains and the deserts. So they don't have one because they didn't have one in the real game. I mean, it's a really cool idea to tie them together. I think had they been released in the opposite order, had they released the core game first and this one second, that would have made more sense. I think, though, doing it in the opposite way I don't think it works so well. I would have rather seen each of them having their own picture, like a bizarre scene for the markets, maybe like the Parthenon on a mountaintop, like with blue sky background, and like for the farms, maybe like a red barn farm, and basically you would tell the difference between the different hexes by their color, main color, rather than these silly meeple pictures. The other option I thought would have worked just as well was if they actually had meeples in this, but that would add a lot of price to the game. This is a small game, that adding that many meeples would bring it way above a price point that something like this, of this size, would normally be. Also, did want to cover, I realized in the rules I didn't cover volcanoes. In this particular map, they don't come up so often, but you can't actually build anything next to or touching a volcano spot. But you can touch a volcano spot. Like, so you couldn't build a camp here, you couldn't have villages on either of those. Now, the only volcanoes are at the very edge of the map. I assume the actual full game is going to come with, I think they're currently at 7 maps, depending on how many backers they get. They can get up to 10. Plus, there are some additional expansion maps from one of the tier levels. I think as of now there is one person who's donated at that tier, so we're talking another 2 maps. So 12, well 9 right now, up to I think 18 different maps. So I assume the volcanoes are going to come into play during some of them. And I mean, look, I mean the art, you can see it pretty well, but the art is beautiful. I just wish they weren't covering it up. Yeah, but that's really my only problem with the game. Other than that, I really like it. I would give it high marks for gameplay. I'll see you back at the Wall of Victory. Well, that's pretty much it for the Civicus dice game Let's Play Board Game Edition preview. I do want to say I realized before I finish, I want to say there's one other thing. It does seem one of the players has a specific advantage, at least with this map, but I'll admit I have not played enough games. I've only played a handful of games with one other opponent. So I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to try all the different strategies. I have some ideas that I'd like to try that would make that maybe not the case. I'm not going to tell you which player it is because that will spoil the playthrough coming up next. But I also think that could be map related. I mean, that's something that I'm not going to hold against the game at this point. I don't know enough. If I came back maybe later and said, when I do like a how not to play like Will Wheaton of this episode, maybe that would, for this game, maybe they would come up then. Hopefully by that point I'll have found that my fears are completely unwarranted, and so that's what I'm hoping. There's still a lot of testing in that respect. So that's it for the preview. Please remember to share, like, and subscribe. And if I don't see you in the playthrough, remember to stay geeky.